Hey there, friends and enemies. Jopa here again, and welcome to another episode of the Weekly Lootdrop, my podcast talking about all your favorite looter video games, from Destiny to Diablo and everything in between. The support lately has been absolutely fantastic as I've kicked this off, so thank you so much for all that. If you're on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. If you're on another podcast platform, make sure you leave a rating or a review, as well as following the pod on that platform, because it helps me out tremendously. The more you do that kind of stuff, the more you help out the podcast, the more people will be able to see it, and I'll start having guests and all that kind of good stuff as well heading into the future. It's definitely something that I want to do. But for now, we're sticking with the news around all the looters, starting with Destiny this week, as we have Season of the Deep dropping tomorrow. We are getting a brand new trailer. Season of the Deep is changing up a lot of things, from the way that the artifact works a little bit. We got a brand new artifact perks. We've got a bunch of changes to exotic armor and weapons, changes to subclasses, all kinds of stuff. It's going to feel like a whole new sandbox, in my personal opinion. So there's a lot to look forward to. As far as the season goes, we don't know a whole lot about it. It will take place on Titan, probably just like we've had previously in the season, where we had the Leviathan, where it's got a little patrol zone and some things, but not a whole standalone location like with Neomuna or anything like that. So that'll be very fascinating. It does look like Sloane is coming back. We see her in the promotional material as well. That's going to be really cool. She's one of the characters that I was disappointed got dropped once Titan did go into the Destiny content vault. So for me, I'm excited to see that. Some of the weapons returning look really cool. Some of the new stuff that we've seen looks really good. And we're also getting some ornaments that look very, very fun, that are a collaboration with PlayStation. So if you missed it, we're getting a Kratos God of War themed Titan set. We're getting a Warlock set based on Ghost of Tsushima, which looks, in my opinion, is the best looking one so far that we've seen. It looks tremendous. I know not everyone's a fan of it, but for me, that's my favorite set, and I'm a Titan main, so that says something. And then for the Hunter, we have Aloy from the Horizon series, as well as having a Ghost that has some clicker vibes from The Last of Us. So it's really cool. I actually really enjoy, personally, the collaborations. I know not everyone is a big fan of them, and really they don't have any impact on gameplay, but I just like seeing my favorite thing crossing over into my other favorite thing. I'm a massive fan of God of War. I really enjoyed Ghost of Tsushima. I was a fan of the Horizon series. So all of that kind of leads me to be excited about stuff like that, and just kind of put my own take on it as well, if I do get these ornaments, to throw on my character and kind of make my own kind of look with it, which is cool. Destiny has a lot of different options when it comes to ornaments and armors and all that stuff, so you can kind of mix and match and really make things your own, which I do enjoy. Now, other than that, Season of the Deep has some other interesting things coming along. We know there's some more Lightfall story coming, Lightfall exotic that we are getting as well. That is going to be included if you have Lightfall. You don't need the season for that. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm really hopeful that this is going to be a good season, and I think this is going to be the season that really sets us on the path towards what we're going to see for the rest of the year, heading into the final shape as well. Overall, again, I'm really looking forward to it. I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited about the future of Destiny at this point, just because of everything that we've seen. I know it's up and down at times, but there are very few games that do this ongoing seasonal model as well as Destiny, with the type of content they get. And I think Bungie doesn't get the credit they deserve at times because of how well they've maintained everything. We've seen so many other games, looter shooters, regular looters, rise and fall because they're just not able to keep up with the ravenous desire of the player base to want more content going forward. And that's something that I hope Bungie gets a little bit more credit for. Now, whether you enjoy all the different aspects of the seasonal model is a whole nother story in general, but I do think they do a very good job of all that. So aside from that, we know Diablo IV is coming next week. If you have early access, it's launching early on June the 1st, and then full launch is going to be on June the 4th. So I have early access. I'll be taking it on right from day one. I'm very excited about that. And it seems like there's going to be a lot of hype around this game. From everything that I've seen, whether it's YouTube or Twitter or whatever the case may be, Diablo 4 is going to be one of those games that's really going to excel as far as the player base number goes. And that's exciting because as somebody who wants to play the game co-op more often than not, the biggest downside to games is when they just don't have the player base to keep up with that. And you ask your friends, hey, do you want to run some with me? And they're just not available, not interested, not making time for the game. And that's something that happens a lot as games get older, or if they don't really hit the player base numbers like Diablo 4 looks to do. So that's exciting. We're getting a lot of trailers. There looks to be a KFC crossover with some ornaments that you can include on your weapons from KFC. So keep an eye out for that for Diablo 4. I think that's whatever. Again, I'm not really too interested in that necessarily, but if you want to collect everything, that's going to be an option for you as well. As far as everything else goes, we've got some other interviews from the developers. They talked about how the Druid is potentially going to be one of the best endgame characters, even though it struggles a bit early on. So that's something to keep in mind. I've made a video talking about the Diablo 4 build d4builds.gg is basically a build maker site, and you can kind of plug in some of your different information as you add your skill points and everything like that, and kind of get an idea on how you want to make your builds going into launch. And so I think there is a lot of potential for something like the Druid to be very good. The problem is whether people are going to enjoy the game enough to play it long term. Now, for me, the Druid is the perfect class to play co-op. So I'll probably use that as my playthrough character for when I'm running co-op with friends. And that'll be a lot of fun for me because I think that's a perfect kind of combo character. Whereas if I'm playing solo, I want a nuking character like a sorcerer or something like that. Maybe even a necromancer. We'll have to wait and see. But those are my top two there. So other than that, we did get some other information from other games as well. For example, Arc Raiders. That's a game that I've been really looking forward to. Originally slated to be a traditional co-op PvE experience, it's actually morphed into a PvEVP extraction shooter. Whether it's going to be Tarkov DMZ like or something like that, or if it's going to be more inclusive of like build crafting like you might see in something like Destiny, remains to be seen. I'm very curious to see how that's going to work out and if you're able to kind of combine those elements. I've always said that a game like, for example, The Division or even a game like Destiny could do really well in the extraction space, especially if you're able to earn gear that you keep that is very good and is useful in various activities. PvP is a way to make endgame possible without having anything like raids or dungeons or anything like that. So it's another option that I think is going to be very fascinating to see how it all works out. And this pivot is going to be interesting because whether it'll still kind of qualify as a looter or not remains to be seen. I do wonder if we're going to start blending some of these genres. Like we've seen it with Destiny to The Division are both looter shooters, but functionally they're very, very different. And if you forgot about it, the Division 1 had the survival game mode, which was very similar to extraction shooters as well. So it's not like these elements haven't already been incorporated into games like this in the past. So overall, I do think that this is going to be an interesting take on the genre, and whether it kind of qualifies as a looter overall is going to be interesting. We do have the Division Heartland, which again I think is another extraction shooter. So there's a lot of these coming out, and I'm really curious to see how they kind of shape up and shape out over the course of time and how they balance PvP, because that's one of the hardest things to do. We see it in Destiny a lot. We've seen it in the Division a lot with the Dark Zone, and how difficult it can be to balance PvP when you might have some OP or cool things in general, weapons, abilities, all that kind of stuff. So I'm really fascinated to see how that all works out. If maybe the Arc Raiders will be more like the cycle than Tarkov. That could be very interesting as well. So overall, I'm excited. I'm curiously optimistic, cautiously optimistic as well about how Arc Raiders is going to shape out. But I'm glad that we finally got more news. It is entering closed beta as well. So if you want to play that'll be available soon. Then we've also got some new synced information. They talked about the difference between the runners and the nanites. The runners are your characters, and then obviously you have your helpers. So if you didn't know, synced is a interesting. Again, it's a PVE game and a PvP game. The PvP aspect, you will have your little companion there. So every build is going to revolve on you, your guns, but also your little character that you have with you the entire time, your companion, which will make things very interesting. And again, balance is going to be something to watch for, because as much as I really want to play that game, if certain things are just broken strong, it'll make it difficult in the grand scheme of things, because it does mean that like there's going to be a definitive meta, and I'm a counter meta kind of guy. I love using things that go against the grain a bit. So for that reason, I'm hopeful that there's going to be lots of available options. On the other side, then we have the First Descendant, which is dropping, which is strictly PvE. And they came out and they did say that there are no intentions to add PvP at this point. So that's a game that's going to need dungeons or raids or end game activities in order to keep up the longevity of the game. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle that as well. Finally, what was the other thing that was Wayfinder. Wayfinder has a closed beta this week, and that's going to be interesting as well, because closed beta is fully NDA. You can't share any information about the game, but you will be able to get hands-on. They've been doing a lot of improvements and updates with the closed beta so far, so they haven't just been like for promotional material and promotional activities. So that's been fascinating, because every single update seems to have better information. Just like the First Descendant was another one that we don't know when that's coming out, but they did tease that there's going to be better weapons. The weapons are more viable, make the weapon archetypes feel different from each other. So Wayfinder's been the same way, as they've adjusted classes and content and abilities and all that stuff. So I'm very curious to see how this will play out, and I can't wait that's a game that I can't wait to go into early access in the summer, because I'll be able to actually make content on the game, which is something I've been looking forward to for a long time. But it's been impossible because of the NDAs and everything, all the content being under closed beta. So it's one of those games that I'm very excited about. And there's so many options that I've talked about today, and there's more on the horizon. We have the PlayStation Showcase coming out soon. We have the Summer Games Fest that's launching soon as well, which will have a bunch of new games announced. And it'll be really, really fascinating to see if we have additional looters lined up for the rest of the year, because right now we have a lot of competition in the space already, and getting a firm idea on some of these are going to launch is going to give us an idea on how much free time we'll have, because there's just so many options that I'm quite frankly I'm very excited about, and I hope everybody is too, because for me, the more options we have, because you know that some of them are not going to work out as well as you hope for. Some of them are going to be a little bit less exciting than you might have wanted. So for that reason, the more options we have, maybe an underrated title comes out and blows everybody away. Maybe one becomes the new dominant force in the space. I'd love for an alternative to Destiny. I never really personally got into Warframe, and Fallout 76 was a little bit delayed, and I just didn't have enough people playing. I'd love an alternative to Destiny that comes out and rocks my socks, so that way I have other looters to play. Obviously, Diablo 4 is going to be a main game on the channel for the foreseeable future, but other than that, I'm just really looking forward to more options being on the table, because I do want my combination. I want my fantasy game, but I also want space fantasy stuff, and I want some different options. So anyway, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Again, not a ton of new information, mostly just talking about the future of the looter genre. Next week, I'll be kind of going back and looking at the Season of the Deep launch and how the first week went. I'll be talking about Diablo 4 as well, because we'll be just days away from that. So I appreciate your support. Thank you for all the views and likes and all that kind of good stuff. It means the world to me, and I will definitely catch you all later. Subscribe, like the video, all that kind of stuff, and I'll love you for a long time. So thanks and have a great one.